So what I've realized over the years is that it needs to translate into action, and easy action, where you can plug in, because that first moment you plug in, whether it be a strategy or a technique that has affected me in my life or others that I've spoken to, and you see success, you see happiness, you see results, you're like, hey, this stuff works.
Be Inspired Podcast. Real stories from real people. Sharing stories of love and loss, struggles and perseverance, laughter and tears, and overcoming adversity.
As we all know, life can change for each of us very quickly. Our guest today on Be Inspired overcame tremendous adversity to become one of the world's best-known motivational speakers and life coaches. Hi, I'm Burt Barron.
And I'm Lisa Anderson.
And we welcome you to a very special Be Inspired. Lisa, call me selfish, but I always try to learn something from each of the guests that we have on this show. And I think our guest today, I'm going to be learning a lot from our special guest who's here.
Absolutely. We are so thrilled to have Scott Chesney with us because he's been such an inspiration to so many. And I know each and every season, and by the way, it's so exciting to be filming season 5. We're back, yay. Each and every season, our guests never cease to amaze me. They all bring a special story to the table.
And it is great to welcome Scott Chesney, known as the Commander of Change, to today's episode of Be Inspired. Scott, welcome. It's such an honor to have you here today.
Thank you, Bert. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, Lisa. Great to see you.
In your early teen years, Scott, were you just your ordinary, everyday American kid growing up?
I was just living life to the fullest, just aimlessly, no agenda, just free in my body, free in my mind, free in my spirit, and just really in the moment. Not too much in the past, not too much in the future, just fully immersing myself in the moment.
And take us through a life-changing moment in your mid-teen years, if you would.
Yeah, it was December 28th, 1985. I was 15 years old, a sophomore at Verona High School in Verona, New Jersey. And I just woke up one morning and had a numb big toe, like when your foot falls asleep or a part of your body, those pins and needles, and thought nothing of it. And then within 48 hours, that numbness went up one leg, went up a second leg, and left me paralyzed, unable to move and feel normally from about my belly button down to my toes. So there was no trauma, no accident, no injury. It was just my time. And weeks and months of various tests and all these things that they did on me trying to determine what caused it, they finally determined that I was born with a malformation of blood vessels in my spinal cord. You would have never known because I was a healthy baby. And there were no MRIs back in 1970. I think I just dated myself there. So there was no way of knowing. And so an MRI was very new. And now we're in 1986 when they were doing a lot of test on me and determining things, but the MRI was still very new, but that was the test that determined something's not right in a spinal cord. So it's an arterial venous malformation, congenital. They said I could have gone my whole life without anything happening. It could have happened much later in life, but I like to say on that day when I was 15 years old, it was my time. And I've been paralyzed for almost 36 years now.
Scott, when that first happened, was there a feeling of this isn't going to be forever? I'm going to, somehow manage to overcome the paralysis. It's only temporary. And, I'll look back on this and say, wow, that was crazy. And if not, when was the point that you said, wow, I got to learn how to deal with this?
Lisa, that's a great question because people talk about the stages of grief and everything.
Yeah.
And all I remember is feeling like that I was sick. Because I didn't have an accident, I didn't have an injury. So just as it entered my body, it was going to exit my body. Right. And I will tell you, I look back on it, not consciously, I almost think subconsciously, I was loving all the attention. And it was almost like I had a break from sports, I had a break from life, and it was just something that I've done a lot of reflection on, and it was like a break that I think on some level that I needed. I mean, it sounds wacky and weird, but can't change it. But in rewinding the tape, I just remember being there and shutting everything down. See, that's what I love sharing with people is that you can't change the past, but you can rewind the tape. So I take myself back to that 15-year-old who was lying in that bed. And it was interesting because every single day, I had family and friends around the bed, and I remember vividly seeing every set of eyes the size of golf balls with tears in them. And I know, not consciously, but subconsciously, I said, you know what? All that you're feeling, I can't handle that. So all that sadness, all that grief and everything, I shut all that down that I was feeling, because I said to myself, I need to prove to everyone that I'm okay. And to a degree, I was still alive. I still had use of my arms and my hands. I was okay. But anything that you would say, anyone had every right to feel. Anger, sadness, depression. I just shut it all down, put a little bit of a smile on my face, because I could not feel what all those people around me were feeling. I couldn't. And I look back on now, and it's like, you know what? I took one for the team. And it would be many years later in which I gave that 15-year-old permission to go inside and feel everything that he had the right to feel. There's never a wrong time to go back to the drawing board and grieve, feel happy, whatever it may be that you're experiencing.
Incredible.
That was a long-winded answer.
Just such a great personality, Scott, and I could feel just such a positive vibe on the set today just by having you here today. Was there a moment where you said, well, I'm going to take what I went through and try to turn this around and maybe be able to teach life lessons to other people, and maybe my story could inspire some other people to overcome adversity? Was there a moment in your life when you said, I'm going to focus my life experiences now and use this to help others?
I think just living my life in the beginning, my experience of moving on with my life, getting back to school, I think through my example, like served as an inspiration and motivation to other people. But to fully answer your question, I think it's when I finally grieved about 12 years after this happened to me. And I went inside and kind of made peace with the past as much as possible. That's when I realized, wow, you know what? There's a bigger message here. There's a purpose that I may have had before paralysis, but it's even bigger now. And I felt it. And I still, to this day, because I could share all I want with people, and whether or not they're listening, I have no control over that. I'm realizing that by my example, and I start by showing up every single morning. I see that waiting wheelchair, I get in it, and then through which I have my power to choose, is that where my choice is taking me. And I feel that through my example in life, that's what inspires people. That's what motivates people, and what I love more than anything, hopefully, it ignites people to take positive action in their lives.
You know, Scott and Bert, I know we've all, had adversity at one time or another in our lives. There's a certain shift where you realize, whether subconsciously or consciously, like you said before, you either can go one way, and it's real easy, or you can do what you said, show up, look at the chair, and get in it. When that happened, and you decided, and we'll talk more about the appearances that you've made all over the world, do you ever picture your life, had that not happened, had you not had a spinal stroke? And by the way, that's more common than I realized. I've been reading about that.
It is different.
Yeah.
Mine, I had a retired pathologist from Africa visiting a current pathologist at Columbia Presbyterian in New York, who just said, do you mind taking a look at this? And he goes, oh, I've seen that before. And at the time, back in 1986, they said it was the 12th documented case ever.
Wow.
But I've met some people who have had it happen much later in life, had the MRI, people went in there, did the surgery right away, stopped the bleeding, and are able to walk, in which, there's no jealousy, there's no envy. Because while I consider paralysis one of my greatest gifts, I would not wish this upon my worst enemy.
And
yeah.
And when no, not at all.
Not at all.
and I commend you for not having the bitterness. But when you do show up to people, what do you want them to take away from speaking with you?
I just want people to realize that we all have an abundance of strength, an abundance of hope, just a reservoir of whatever it is that we need to get through any issue. So it's almost like paralysis has entered my life. I absolutely know. I don't think. I say the mind thinks, the heart knows. I know in my heart that I have what it takes to get up and walk away from this chair. And I have what it takes to not only survive paralysis, but thrive in the face of it. So whether I'm back on my feet or just living my life to the fullest in this chair, I was like, I'm going to do it to the utmost of my ability, and realize that there's purpose, there's meaning in it. There's pain, there's joy. It's just a real unique path that I'm on, and everyone can say the same about his or her own life.
Yeah.
And congratulations, of course, on your many successes. I want to talk a little bit about your work as a motivational speaker and life coach. It's an incredible portfolio, and what a cross-section of society you've had the opportunity to speak to, everyone from sports teams to Fortune 500 corporations. I could imagine you giving a pep talk to a baseball team, and maybe the batting average goes up a couple of points after they talk to you, or that Fortune 500 company that has a great sales quarter with the green arrow pointing upward. I'm sure you sort of tailor your presentations depending upon the audience. Give us a couple of some of the more interesting maybe presentations you've done over the years, and we can go around the world with this if you'd like to. Just to take us inside your world a little bit, if you would.
Well, what's interesting is that the first audience that comes up was the FBI. So I was asked to talk to a group of FBI agents who were out in the field, who had really diverse, adventurous jobs, and while their significant others at home were constantly worried about them, they were transitioning to desk jobs. So 101% of them thought that was death to them. So they brought me in to let them know how to make a transition, how to go living a life of almost like absolute freedom to what they were perceiving as a life of confinement. I'm like,
Jail.
Confinement. I know a little bit about sitting in a chair, a cubicle. And so they brought me in, and that's what I love. I love all my audiences, and while, yes, resilience, overcoming adversity, they're all different themes that I will touch upon, is that it's the customization. So I want to know the culture. I want to know what they're experiencing. I want to speak to my audience members, as many as possible, before they're in front of me, so that I can connect. Because, yes, is my story and many stories that I have, are they motivational? Yes. Are they inspirational? Yes. But I realize all too much and all too well that motivation and inspiration can be here today and gone tomorrow. You could feel great after my presentation, wake up the next morning like, who is that guy I heard speak yesterday? So what I've realized over the years is that it needs to translate into action. And easy action, where you can plug in, because that first moment you plug in, whether it be a strategy or a technique that has affected me in my life or others that I've spoken to, and you see success, you see happiness, you see results, you're like, hey, this stuff works. I'm going to try this out professionally. I'm going to try this out personally. So I'm realizing that, that's what I want to ignite. I want to ignite action as much as possible, knowing full well I can't do that for you. It's almost like you can't lead a horse to water, but you can make him drink.
Yeah.
You can't make him drink. I like to say that I have some of the best tasting water, and I'm going to make you want to drink, and you're going to see the results for yourself.
You could see it come from within you. I overheard you before we started speaking. You said to someone, they asked you, how do you find it within yourself to, inspire people? And you said it has to be within. Did life coaching help you with that? And is that what it's all about? Because I really think I want to try a life coach, so I'll call you.
I think we're all life coaches to a degree. And I was telling someone earlier is that after a presentation, usually I have a lineup of people wanting to talk to me, and I was in Australia, and someone brought up the term life coach. And I said, and people get paid for that? This was back in 2000. I said, I've been doing this forever. And they're like, yeah,
free.
People get paid for this. I was like, thank you so much. That was my wake-up call. But no, I just love when people, and it's my purpose, it's my passion that I've been able to turn into a career as well. And that's what I hope for people too, to take their passions and purpose and turn it into a career. But it just comes from within. And what I've realized, getting back to your original question, is that it was when I was traveling. So I've taken 2 trips around the world.
Wow.
And I got to the point where I'm on a trip, all expenses paid, basically told to leave whenever I want, come back whenever I want. Everything's taken care of. Someone might say, despite him being paralyzed, this is a wonderful opportunity. And I still found a way to be miserable. And everything was out there. And it was just such a sign. This is when I did the grieving over paralysis. I realized that this wonderful life outside of us is full of joy, full of abundance, but it's got to be a complement to what it is that you're already giving yourself. And everyone knows this example, but I always say repetition is the mother of skill. It's like when you're on that wonderful airplane, they go over the emergency procedures, and that oxygen, they don't say, give it to that sweet old lady over to the right, and they don't say, give it to that cute kid to the left. They say, give it to yourself first so you have even more to give other people. And I've realized, especially, and this isn't like in any type of disrespect or judgment, I realize, though, with older generations, is that doing for yourself is perceived as selfishness. And I kind of went through this with my mother as well. She's like, wait a minute, doing for yourself, that's selfishness. I said, Mom, if you do for yourself at the exclusion of other people, that's selfishness. I agree with you. But when you do for yourself with wanting to do even more for other people, that's self-respect, that's self-love. That's what my objective is, in getting to know myself more so that I can understand others more.
You wear so many different hats, Scott, and you have so many different roles in this world. Talk about your work now as an ambassador for the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. What led to that, and how important has that been to you?
So it was a few years after Christopher passed away, and then Dana had passed away. I think it was a year after Dana had passed away, is that I got a call from their president and vice president at the time wanting to meet me for lunch. And they asked me if I wanted to be one of their ambassadors. And it was almost like Jerry Maguire, you had me at hello. Because where they are, today's care, tomorrow's cure, that is exactly where I am in my life. What I've been describing is I want to do everything that I possibly can to get up and walk away from this wheelchair. Absolutely, my life would be easier if I was on my feet again and I had full use of my body. And I realized that, you know what, I might be in this wheelchair a little bit longer. I might be in this wheelchair for the rest of my life. And if that's the case, I'm just going to have to be the happiest guy and have an amazing life, to the point where whatever path takes place, it's going to be the same destination, in which that was a life well lived. And so to be able to be one of those ambassadors and help them to translate that message and connect with amazing people around the world from time to time is just so fulfilling. And knowing full well that, like, yes, I might be paralyzed, but you have a unique story, just like we all have a unique story, and wanting to get to know that story and be whatever I can to help you get from where you are today to where you want to be. So that might be, you know what, relationships, that might be work, that might be taking better care of myself, eating healthier. Whatever the case may be, is that I just love providing that bridge for people. And a lot of it has to do with accessibility these days.
Yeah, that's so important. And you are working with special people, especially around the Jersey Shore. And it really gives a purpose to bring awareness for that. Tell us what you're doing to just get the message out there to folks. I see some of the wheelchairs for the beaches with the big wheels, and not enough really accessibility.
Well, if you think, nearly 20% of the population has some type of disability. And as we live longer as human beings, and more medical advances, the older we're going to get, and thus that number of more people having disabilities is going to be inevitable. So it's a segment of the population we can no longer ignore. And then people with mobility disabilities fit into that as well. So Asbury Park was identified as one of those places that's very open-minded, but yet had really not done too much to cater to the needs of people with mobility disabilities. So we identified the beach as one of those places. And I was sharing with someone earlier, I was a Benny, is that growing up in northern New Jersey, came down for 3 weeks down the shore, and just was a Benny and loved the experiences. And we did that up until I was 15 years old. But then my parents were just like, we can't do this to Scott. There was nothing, you didn't see people in wheelchairs, people with disabilities on the beach. It was almost like, you can't move in the sand, you can't swim, you can't do all these things. Why put someone through that? But thanks to technology, thanks to more open-mindedness, more awareness, is that now we're helping to create pathways that can get people from their cars actually into the ocean. And I'll never forget when the program was first conceptualized and introduced to me, is that 3 of us, I was one of 3 people in wheelchairs who went down to the beach. All, like you might say, all are paralyzed, yes, but we all had a different purpose for being there. There's one person who just wanted to get on the beach, get a suntan, but see the sand right below their feet. That person was accommodated. Another person just wanted to touch the water, not necessarily go in. Meanwhile, I want to see where England is. Like, get me in the ocean. I want to go as far as I can. And they're actually water wheels now that can get you into the water and with the assistance of other people. But I've gone to new levels with that, with adaptive surfing and getting on surfboards and doing everything except standing on a board. So it's amazing to know what more awareness can do, because not only does more awareness help you to raise funds, it allows you to connect with more people with disabilities. And I think what's happening more and more, people are realizing that the degrees of separation between themselves and someone with a disability is shrinking. Because that's what I love to do, is that to get people who know nothing about disabilities to teach them. But it makes it so much easier when someone has a loved one or a colleague or a friend who's become disabled, because then they're like, I'm on board. What can I do? How can I help? I just wish it didn't have to come to that, knowing full well it is a segment of our population that is growing and increasing, and our demands aren't much. Anytime I've seen something be made accessible, there's not someone out there. I mean, even at airports, I'm there, and you know that real big stall? Is that sometimes I'll give people a look, because I see that businessman who's hanging up his thing, putting his briefcase down, and he comes out of there. Oh, I'll give him the look, all right, and everything, and I'll say, listen, if there's someone out there with disability, they're like, use another one. But I was like, I understand you want to be like Superman in there and go through your quick change, but there's never been a ramp. There's never been something made accessible that becomes inaccessible to someone else. And I saw this at the beach, is that I remember those days of burning my feet on the ground when you're like walking on, ow, 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 hot sand, hot sand. I remember that. Now we have like access decking that goes all the way down to the water, and everyone's using it. You see people in strollers, people who have coolers, legitimate coolers, whatever it may be. It's making life easier for everyone. So why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
The things we take for granted.
Yeah. Scott, people can learn more of your life story through a documentary that was recently released, I understand. What do you want people to know about the documentary film?
So Ride the Wave, it could have everything to do with the ocean or nothing to do with the ocean. It has to do with those waves that we're all riding, and that means the peaks of life, meaning, you know, these are the moments in life that we really wish never came to an end, those moments of absolute joy and bliss. And so they never last forever. And then we have the valleys of the waves, and those are the setbacks, those are the adversities, those are the wipeouts that we've had in life. And while we wish like we weren't here anymore when those moments happen, we kind of make sense of them now. And knowing full well that all of our peaks, all of our valleys had led us up to this very moment in which we've learned more about ourselves and other people. So I was out adaptive surfing, and these guys approached me who were looking for some type of inspiration for their next project. And they wanted to, they said, we'd love to do a film about your life. And I said, I will agree under one condition, that it's done in the same way my presentations are done, in which, yes, obviously it's a story about my life, and I will be sharing my story. But I want everyone who's tuning in and watching this to be plugging in their own lives, because that's the beauty of life, is that we can connect. When we're vulnerable, when we are real with ourselves, is that we can connect with any human being, plug ourselves in, and learn from that person. And they can learn from us. So that's what I hope. And Nolte Films did a great job in conveying that in the film, and it's still making the rounds worldwide. And I was telling Lisa earlier, I was like, it's the wave that never ends, because she said, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. And I said,
Not
that's
yet.
okay. I was like, this wave never comes to an end, so you could watch it at any time.
You have a beautiful family, Scott.
Absolutely.
Beautiful wife.
Absolutely.
And your son is here.
Yes.
And can you just tell us, before I want to give you a special shirt, excuse me, can you just tell us, what do you think your children have learned, or hope that they have learned, by listening to you, by following your example?
Probably in the beginning that there's a time to be quiet, because they hear me talking all the time, and I'm probably quiet at home. But I think it's resilience. I absolutely believe it's resilience to say, you know, maybe this didn't work out, and we were tested during the pandemic and everything, but I still feel that they were adapting, they were shifting, they were modifying, transitioning, pivoting, whatever words you want to use. And I think that absolutely through what I need to go through on a daily basis, they've learned a lot of that from me. I see it in their own actions. If this doesn't work, I'm going to go a different way. And knowing full well that failure is a part of the process.
Right.
How would we know success if we didn't know failure? How would we know failure if we didn't know success? So they go hand in hand, and so I'm blessed. I'm blessed with my wife of over 21 years, and I'm blessed to have beautiful children inside and out who were impossible. I was told, in addition to being told I'd never be able to walk again, I'd never be able to father my own children. So those are my impossible. So keep telling me I can't do something. All you're doing is stoking this flame inside of me and just wanting me to prove you wrong. So I'm a blessed man over here.
Wonderful. Well, Bert, we usually sell these for $10, but I think we should just
I was
let
going to give
Scott
you
off the
12.
hook.
Okay.
These, they're a limited edition. Really want to give this to you. And you were so funny. You said it's like a Porky Pig, no pants.
No, I mean, where are the pants?
We got to get pants.
We gotta
Be
get
inspired pants. But
I
we
love
want
it.
you to have this
Thank you.
because
Thank you.
you really are truly just such an inspiration after the year we've had, after so many people have had so many struggles each and every day that you really don't know about. You're like a bright light, really, just shining on us all and just, reminding us of the fact it's easy to get down and get bitter and, we can't do this or that. And you just bring us right back to what's really important in this life. So,
Well, Lisa and Bert, no more bad days. That's what I would love everyone to take away from it. No more bad days. Challenging moments, moments of sadness, moments of anger, but these are moments, just like a wave, being on a peak and being in a valley. So you want to have a challenging moment, that's fine, but I will never, because of this thing called gratitude, allow a full day to go by in which I say that was a bad day. I made that decision a long time ago, and still to this day, no more bad days, challenging moments.
Scott, as we wrap up this episode, if someone's interested in having you come out and give a pep talk to their company, maybe the FBI needs a sit down and another talk and another
Another
speech.
one.
How does someone go about contacting you to make that happen?
They just need to go to my website, and that's scottchesney.com. Everything they can find on there, from hiring me to speak, life coaching, Ride the Wave, the documentary, and everything else about me is there. Testimonials, my demo video. So scottchesney.com.
Very inspirational to have you on the program today, Scott. Thank you again for being here.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Scott.
You, Lisa. Thank you, Bert.
I'm Bert Barron,
and I'm Lisa Anderson.
and thank you for watching Be Inspired.
Hi, I'm Scott Chesney, and I'm a motivational speaker and a life coach. It's such a joy and an honor to be here on Be Inspired. And I want to really encourage everyone out there to consider being a guest on Be Inspired, because we all learn from one another. We're all in this thing called life with one another, and we need to share our messages. That's what makes us more unique than anything, is our powerful messages. So please consider this. We need to build a community. We need to connect with more people, because what we need more than anything in this world today is to be inspired.
Next on Be Inspired.
The pregnancy was pretty typical.
Everything was great. It was right before the holidays. She was born. She was beautiful. She was healthy.
Ashley died. Subsequently, I had another pregnancy, and the course of the disease was exactly the same.
We just didn't hope that things were going to be better. I mean, we took extraordinary steps.
He dealt with it in one way, and I dealt with it in another way, and we ultimately drifted apart.
Is this the first time you guys are coming together to speak about this?
Yes.
This is very cathartic and meaningful for everyone to talk about it.
Be Inspired with your hosts Bert Barron and Lisa Anderson Puleo. Directed by Rod Weber. Created and produced by Michael R. Doyle. Co-producers Bert Barron, Lisa Anderson Puleo, Rebecca Gruber, and Erwin Sternberg. Executive producers Rod Weber and Sean M. Sternberg. Editor Rebecca Gruber. Filmed at New Beginnings Foundation, Wall Township, New Jersey. Season 5 of Be Inspired is dedicated to the memory of Golden Boy Michael Cammett. Michael was a rising star in the world of professional wrestling who died in a tragic accident this past summer. His memory and legacy live on in the lives he touched, and he will always be remembered by family, friends, and fans.